healing. And healing is both a fascinating and frustrating topic at the same time. And the topic of healing is so present, yet so elusive. At times we wonder why healing seems so easy for others but eludes us. At other times, healing just happens for us. Is there a key? Is there one simple thing that we can do that'll work time after time after time, every time? And sadly, the answer is no and yes. And so today we're going to study the healing attitude behind both the giver and the receiver. I don't mean God the giver, I mean the person who initiates. And we're going to see that a focused heart and the unselfish giving of our personal gifts are the backbone of a healing mindset. A miraculous day ahead. The day of multiple healings starts off on the east side of the Jordan River, adjacent to the ancient city of Jericho. And this is after about an 85-mile walk down the east side of the Jordan River. And it was relatively flat instead of taking the other route across the hill country on the west side of the Jordan. And they were with a big group, a lot of friends, family, apostles, disciples. Mary was there. Other people were a lot of people came because they were heading to Jerusalem to go to the Passover. And so it's a long walk. They walked past some historic places. They probably walked past the place on the Jordan where Jesus first received Holy Spirit, first began to walk with power. It's past the same point that John the Baptist had done his thing for all that period of time. So it was a very memorable walk. And there's so much history to the spot. They got right across the river. You could see Jericho up on the hill on the west side of that. And this is an ancient city. And it's the same area where they were standing was the same area that hundreds of years before the enemy kings of the Amorites watched in horror as the priests of God walked into the river carrying the Ark of the Covenant, and the river completely stopped flowing. And all the children of Israel, millions of them, flooded into what would become their land, their promised land. I ask, what's been promised to you? We are promised that God has already supplied our health and our prosperity. We were assured that our needs would be met. We're told that God is an ever-present help, that He exists for us. We were instructed that Jesus Christ was sacrificed for our healing and that we are already healed. And we're led to believe that as we ask and pray, we shall absolutely receive. We're told matter-of-factly that we are super conquerors. Our entire life is supposed to be our promised land. This very spot that Jesus and his crew was standing at on the east side of the Jordan was where Joshua instructed his men to remove 12 large, smooth river rocks from the river, right where the priests had been standing, and carry them on their shoulders to the other side. And then they were to take 12 rocks that hadn't been honed down by the river, whittled down, and replace those in the spots they took the other ones, which is very symbolic. Out with the old, in with the new. It will eventually reshape that rock, just like the word reshapes a life, reshapes a mind, reshapes a heart. And every person that entered the promised land that day, not this day, but in history, was under 40 years old except for 2 people. So they were young and alive and healthy. And they had, for their whole lifetime, eaten something every day called manna. that God made appear. It was like a perfect food, was a perfect food. So imagine if you ate exactly what your body needed. So whatever manna was, in fact, the word manna means, what is it? That's what the word manna means. What's this? What's this again, Mom? I can't imagine eating the same thing every day, but they did. They must have shaped it into bunnies or birds or something. My mom, one time when our family didn't have much money, she got a bunch of Spam and she shaped it into the shape of a big turkey on Thanksgiving. And Spam legs and oh man. Oh well, this isn't about me. Now I got to get Spam out of my head. And so now what happened is this is a spot Jesus wanted to cross the Jordan River this day. Now this was just about a week away from when he was going to be captured, tortured, killed, and raised from the dead. And so this is, just imagine having that knowledge and having to walk about 15 miles from that river to Jerusalem, and then all hell's going to break loose. And so that's where they were. And so this was the end of the Exodus for the children of Israel. And miraculous memories are going to set up this day and some of the lessons that we're going to learn. Now they were heading into Jericho. Now Jericho was where the innkeeper Rahab protected those spies and got salvation for her house. That's where the walls fell down for Gideon. Jericho. You know, the Jordan was. Let me see. Well, Jericho is also, and this is interesting, was the Jericho was the area where manna stopped. And the word, in a sense, calls Jesus Christ the manna. You know, he is what gives life. He gives sustenance. It's something. So now we're going to set the mood for deliverance as they get close to the place to cross this river. Jesus tells a few important tidbits of information, and he explains to them that he's going to be tortured, killed, and when he gets to Jerusalem. Now remember, his mom is in that crowd. James and John's mom is in the crowd. There's other relatives in that. There's all the group of the loved ones, the friends and family who came down that 85 miles. They camped out. They did whatever they needed to do. And now they're doing this last day's walk up to Jerusalem. It's all uphill from there, literally. Because the Jordan River is like 800 feet or something like that below sea level. And Jerusalem's 2,500 feet above sea level. So it's quite an incline that they had to go. Even getting up to Jericho, the Romans had trouble building a road from Jericho, down to where they could portage across the Jordan. And so right after he told them that, then without missing a beat, the mother of James and John walked up to Jesus and she asked if her sons could hold a special place of leadership in heaven. That's sort of a strange thing to ask. And then they seconded it. James and John said, yeah, I want to be at your right and I want to be at your left hand. They wanted special privileges when Jesus Christ came back after the return and such. And now the other apostles who heard this, imagine how they might have felt. You think they would be a little peeved? Yeah. I mean, now it's like, what are you asking them? Because really, secretly, they wanted that. And so really really what we're going to see here is focus on what you want and give the best of who you are. And so Mark chapter 10 and verse 41, we're going to go from Mark, Matthew, and Luke, and that's it. None of this record came out in John. Maybe he got his feelings hurt. So 41. When the other 10 heard of this conversation, they lost their tempers with James and John. Jesus got them together to settle things down. You observed how godless rulers throw their weight around, he said, and when people get a little power, how quickly it goes to their head. It's not going to be this way with you. Whoever wants to be great must become a servant, and whoever wants to be first among you must be your slave. That is what the Son of Man has done. He came to serve, not to be served, and then to give away his life in exchange for many who are held hostage. So he knew his calling. And I think the closer we can get to knowing what we're supposed to be doing, the closer we are to even receiving the things that we're supposed to receive. See, so lesson 1 here is to know your calling and to give the best of yourself. Now, the east side healing. Healing on the east side. And they had crossed over the Jordan. And either they had waded to cross, or they had crossed on some kind of small ferry boat, something, and they were getting close to this ancient city of Jericho. And remember, it was a steep hill they had to go up with this large crowd. And they were still dealing with this knowledge that they were all heading directly to the place Jesus was going to be tortured and killed. And this helpless emotion, combined with the seething anger of what James and John had just done, asking for a special treatment in the hereafter, turned these people inward. Now, this is going to keep coming up because when we think about ourselves, we really cut ourselves off from a life flow. We have to live bigger than ourselves, outside of ourselves. We live bigger than ourselves. Remember, Jesus knows that he's going to be tortured and killed in a few days. Now, wouldn't that cause you to turn inward a bit? Yeah, if you knew in 1 week you're going to be dead, how much giving would you want to be doing? We think, it's Jesus is different. He was still a man. Would you want to be alone with your thoughts? Might you feel sorry for yourself? You see, wouldn't you want a little me time if you had that information? What about that bucket list? What about that bucket list? All the things you wanted to do. You got 1 week now, baby. What are you going to do? Verse 36. And hearing the multitude pass by. Now we're going to talk. Now there's this guy who heard the multitude pass by, all these people, and he asked, Luke 18:36. Sorry about that. Luke 18:36. And hearing the multitude pass by, he asked what it meant, because he couldn't see. He wonders where this crowd's going. Now, people, this is a big route. People went by here all the time, or he wouldn't have been there. And so this guy, this blind man, noticed this was an unusually large and animated crowd, and he wondered, what's up? Now imagine living in that culture. The only way you'd get information outside of your own family would be to sit next to a busy spot. And so this road was this guy's internet. And this was his live audio Twitter feed, and he was logging on here. And verse 37, and they told him that Jesus of Nazareth passes by. And he cried, saying, Jesus, thou son of David, have mercy on me. Now, obviously, he must have heard who Jesus was. He must have known a little bit. He might have heard about the healings, and he thought maybe this was his chance. This is my lucky day. Now, if you had an ailment, and all of a sudden Jesus Christ appeared in this building, in this room, would you want a little time with him? Do you think he could help you over a couple of situations? Yeah. It's just that the attitude of knowing that. And that's part of this whole believing process, that expectation. You would expect to get healed because he's Jesus. He's the Christ. And really, it's all biblically, it says it's already been done. So how do we get ourselves to the point we can believe what the Word says? That's really the key here. And so all I'm going to hit today is just the attitude that'll help, that could reset our believing. That's all I can possibly do today. And this word cried, where this blind man yelled out, means to blurt out. But it's not like screaming like crazy. It's like going, yoo-hoo, yo-ho, look at me, I'm here, Jesus. I'm right here. 39. And they which went before rebuked him. The people at the front of the crowd, they told him to shut up. Now remember, what did they just hear a few minutes prior? That Jesus was going to be killed and tortured and crucified. This is just minutes. This isn't hours and days. They just had heard this. So now this guy's screaming. They're all alone in their thoughts, like, what are we going to do? What's going to happen when Jesus is gone? Now we're going to have to, who's going to be the leader? What's going to happen? Everything's going to be different. At times in our life, something happens and everything's different. A job change, a marriage, something like that. There's a lot of things. And so he cries out, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. See, this spiritually introverted crowd told him to shut up. And this blind man clearly saw in his heart, that he clearly saw in his heart what he wanted, and nobody was going to stop him. Learn to see with your heart more than you see with your eyes. Especially if you do a lot of internet searches on your little malady. It's all good. But sometimes we need to go with our heart. Sometimes you know what you need more than somebody else thinks they know what you need. Sometimes you need to go to somebody else. Be careful. And see, he realized that this was his chance. No longer using his polite inside voice, he starts screaming his lungs out. It's, Son of David, have compassion on me. Help me, Son of David. And this blind guy, he's sitting next to the road. The crowd's going by. He's screaming like a madman. And the cool thing is it worked. Jesus stopped. And I think when it comes to your health, push until they call security. And if you want something, go get it. What do you need? We all have things that we need. Think about the most talked about things in life, most thought about things in life: health, finances, relationships, love life, whatever. There's just a handful of things that we think about multiple times a day. And this is one of them. And so if you want something, go get it. Verse 40, and Jesus stood, he stopped, and commanded him to be brought unto him. And when he was come near, so they probably helped this guy up, walked him over to Jesus, holding his arm or whatever. And then he said, Jesus said, what wilt thou that I should do unto thee? What do you want? Because the guy was just saying, have mercy on me, help me, have mercy. What do you want? What do you want? And he said, Lord, that I might receive my sight. And Jesus said unto him, receive your sight. Thy faith hath saved thee. That's so simplistic there. He said, receive thy sight. Thy faith, thy believing has saved thee, has made you whole. And immediately he received his sight. and followed him, glorifying God. And all the people, when they saw it, gave praise unto God. So now the whole crowd is going, it's like, what just happened? I mean, it was huge. Can you imagine how blessed this guy would be? To not having the ability to see, and then all of a sudden to be able to see. Connecting faces to voices. Realizing that person may not be as good looking as he thought they were, or they were better looking than he thought, whatever. I ask you, did you notice a prayer before that healing? Was there a mention of the optic nerve? No. You see, was there any laying on of hands, glowing hands, magic hands, pixie dust? A special crystal that you laid on somebody's forehead or something? No. Did Jesus take him to a quiet place to avoid the hubbub of the crowd? No. An alternate lesson here is to stop copying what everyone else does when it comes to healing. To your healing. It may not come the way that everybody says it's going to come. The sooner we get over our religious training, or should I say mistraining, the sooner we will see deliverance. See, healing's available to anybody who believes. Believe it or not. When we're not feeling good, it's hard to believe that sometimes. Imagine how many times these blind guys wish they were able to see like everybody else that had passed by them. How many years had they wanted that? And now was this guy's chance. Healing's already been given. Financial prosperity's already been given. We have to figure out how to believe to receive it. It comes back on us. How do we do that? Again, I'm just talking about one simple attitude here. We just need to figure out how to believe, how to have total expectation and an active mindset, because believing takes focus. To get anywhere, it takes focus. Seeing that crowd's pumped, attitudes are changing, something amazing just happened. This once blind guy's now part of that amazing animated crowd. What would it be like to be there? They probably have forgot at that moment that what they're walking into once they get to Jerusalem. Because they don't know if it's going to be all of their death. So now we're going to talk about the West Side healing. So they walked into this ancient town, and this town may have the whole environment in that area. There might have been 100,000 people in that whole area. So they came in. This guy was at the east gate of this city, this first blind guy. And now this whole crowd is walking through this town. Do you think other people are wondering what's going on? They're coming out of their houses, beginning to follow. See, the crowd's starting to grow, and it's surging through the narrow streets of Jericho now. Shutters are swinging open. Moms are poking their heads out, looking. What is going on? Where's Johnny? They see him running around, with all this big crowd of people. Who are they? What are they doing? And now this next camera angle, if you will, is on the other side of town. They've walked completely through. Now, how long does that take? I don't know. Jericho wasn't all that big. You can look it up online to see what ancient Jericho, what the size of it was. But let's just say it took between 10 minutes and a half an hour. So now they walk through this town, and they're about to exit it. And go to Mark chapter 10. And this is going to help flesh out this amazing day. And so they enter Jericho on the east side. Now they're exiting on the upper west side. Mark 10:46. And they came to Jericho. And as they came to Jericho, and as he went out of Jericho with his disciples and a great number of people, blind Bartimaeus, the son of Timaeus, sat by the highway side begging. So now there's somebody begging on the west side. This is told you went through the city and all this big crowd, and now on the other side of this town, and the blind people would usually sit at the edges of the gates because that's where everybody had to come in and out. It was easier if you're going to get money. Just like the guys at not McDonald's, at Walmart. I mean, they're always, or when they're ringing that bell at Christmas time, right? They're always right at where everybody has to come in. So you feel guilty and throw a buck in there. Same thing with this guy. He was smart. And so now this guy, this is a totally different blind man. And this man is named Bartimaeus. The other guy, was there a name on that verse? No. And now this is just minutes after that first healing. A few minutes, however long it took to walk through Jericho. Verse 47, and when he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to cry out and say, Jesus, son of David, have mercy on me. Now, why would he say these same exact words as the first guy? I ask myself that. Somebody told him. It very well could have been that first blind guy, thrust himself ahead and started telling all his blind compadres, hey, this guy's coming through. Here's what I said. It worked for me. We'd probably do the same thing. You'd probably tell them the same thing. Hey, Jesus showed up and here's what he did for me. What did you say? Well, here's what I said. It worked. And so this all tends toward believing. And so this guy really didn't start off with, hello, yoo-hoo, somebody noticed me, like the first guy. This guy went right into this full-blown, voice-cracking scream. He just started flat out going crazy. And he's sitting there. Son of David, have mercy on me, have compassion on me, help, help. And he didn't ease into his requests like blind guy number one. That guy from the Lower East Side, he's on the West Side here. And I was thinking, never be tentative when you want something. Be it a job, a promotion, whatever it is, health, a relationship. Don't be tentative. Just go full bore, go full out for something. The worst that would happen with this guy is he'd still be sitting there blind after it left. So sometimes the door opens up, and that's your chance. Verse 48, and many charged him. Now it's many charged him that he should hold his peace. But he cried the more a great deal, thou son of David, have mercy on me. Thou son of David, have mercy. I mean, he took it to a whole new level, this guy. He took it to a whole new level. And the more they told him to shut up, the louder he got. And this, many people told him to shut up, but he just got louder and louder and louder. And I was thinking, don't let any person, any website, any doctor talk you down from your believing. And maybe you don't understand that, but it's amazing what one or two words can say. They can take the wind out of your sails. Just a little thing, can make you, once you turn inward, you're not believing anymore. It's always outward. It's always forward motion. It's always momentum with believing. You see, if what you're reading is making you feel sorry for yourself, then stop reading it. Find things that make you feel great, that turn you outward, that make you aggressive, that make you move towards your goal. Whatever it is, it's not easy to do. And, of course, the word cried means to yell so loud that your voice cracks and you sound like a yard full of crows fighting over a nut, whatever they fight over. And verse 49, and Jesus stood still and commanded him to be called. So it stopped Jesus again. And I was thinking how believing will still stop the Christ in his tracks. True believing. You think he isn't around still? He hasn't stopped working. You just can't see him. You know, he is still around. And Jesus stood still and commanded him to be called. And they called the blind man, saying unto him, be of good comfort, rise, he calleth thee. Now this is the same people who just told him, shut up, fool. Now they're going, please, sir, would you kindly allow us to escort you to the master? And you know, I love how the same people told him, you know, talked this way to him, you know, kind sir, it's your lucky day. Would you be so kind as to accompany us to the master? And the same ones who had just screamed at him to shut up. Verse 50, and he, casting away his garment, rose and came to Jesus. And I like how this is dramatic. Whether they grabbed him to pick him up and he just shrugged off of it, he just threw his, I mean, a blind guy would never throw his garment. A blind guy would never throw it, because then you got to find it again. This guy knew he was going to get healed. He knew he was going to get healed. He walked by himself to Jesus. And I was thinking, take your healing personally. Take your healing personally. If you got somebody telling you everything to do, to eat, to drink, to not do, and why don't you take it personally? Take your healing personal. Take your finances personal. If you're waiting for somebody else to prosper you, it ain't going to happen. Do something. Verse 51, and Jesus answered and said unto him, what wilt thou that I should do unto thee? Sort of the same question. And the blind man said unto him, Lord, that I can receive my sight. My voice is a little shaky too now. And Jesus said unto him, go thy way. Thy faith, your believing, hath made thee whole. And immediately he received his sight and followed Jesus in the way. So now there's two blind guys sort of following here. Now, how crazy would that be? Not one, but two. Now, most people would think that would be a pretty good day, right? You'd write that in your diary, and and then you want to just keep going. I mean, what a great day. One side of town to the other side of town, healing. And basically Jesus told him, get on with your life now. You just believe to be healed. So nobody can tell you that believing isn't part of this. I sometimes have people try to tell me that it's not, which I don't get, but healing's a strange thing. Sometimes it comes so easy, and other times it seems so distant. I've told you this story before. I was at a party one time, and I was just touching a woman's back. And a week later, she came to me and she said, when you were touching my back, the tumor that I had got hot and then just disappeared. And I went to my oncologist, and he said it had disappeared. Now, I had no idea. I didn't feel any virtue. I had no idea what I was doing. I wasn't trying to minister healing, but she had said that she asked God that I'm going to get healed at this meeting. And so I just happened to be the one who touched her. Probably could have been just about anybody. So you just don't know what your words can do, what your touch can do, what your note can do, to somebody. It can change their life. I think it's so simple that we miss it at times. See, if you also notice that healings didn't take a lot of mental preparation. These guys didn't have weeks to think about this. And I'm going to finally get my believing up to a point where I can get healed. It wasn't like that. They just heard, they believed, they received. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom. That's how fast it could happen. And you've all seen it at times. All of a sudden, you're feeling bad, then you feel good. It's like, what happened? If somebody prays for you or whatever, your optic nerve. Sometimes they do touch you. Sometimes they don't. Jesus just said, they said, what do you want? I want to see. Okay, go see. And then their eyes were opened. See, when your vision's clear, your healing is near. So healing two blind guys, I'd say, is a good day. Now, I think Jesus would have been blessed here. And the crowd is teeming now. It's growing. He's like the Pied Piper of Jericho. And all these people are coming. And this is a nice distraction to what he's walking into once he enters Jerusalem. Now there's two more Upper West Side healings. This is a little further down the road, not far. Remember, this is just minutes. It's just boom, this one happened on the east side, then the west side, and then now they're continuing to walk. Matthew 20, verse 29. And as they departed from Jericho, a great multitude followed him. Now it's a great multitude. There's hundreds and hundreds of people following, maybe thousands of people. This is the biggest thing that happened in Jericho since the walls came down. And they're fully out of Jericho now, on the uphill road to Jerusalem, about 13 miles to go. How long does it take you to walk 13 miles? A few hours? With a crowd? So it's a good day's walk, good half day's walk. And I'm not talking about the speed walkers, like the moms you see with the weights and the unitards on and the little visor, walking through the neighborhoods. We're talking about people. These people had to carry all their food. They had to carry, if they were going to change clothes, whatever, maybe a bedroll. They had to carry this stuff. They just walked about 85 miles. And plus the Jordan River there would have been fresh water, because this is springtime in Israel, and the snow would melt off of the mountains, and it just all funnels down into that valley. So it would have been fairly good water too. So now this crowd is basically out of control. One translation calls it a riot. Now, this isn't a riot like when the Detroit Pistons used to win, kind of riot. This word riot, it's sort of a peaceful riot. It's just noise, it's getting more boisterous, things are happening. Remember, there's a lot of people there. The kids probably doing cartwheels. The talk is getting louder. It's like a moving celebration. It's like an impromptu Mardi Gras or St. Patrick's Day parade. And it's wild. See, Jesus has taken on a rock star status. Verse 30, and behold, two blind men sitting by the wayside, when they heard that Jesus passed by, cried out, saying, have mercy on us, O Lord, thou Son of David. Now, how many blind men here now? Two. So how many does this make now? Four. Okay, now they said exactly the same thing, but they probably said it, have mercy on us, O Lord, thou Son of David. Now, these are the Upper West Side people. Now, you got to remember, Jericho was in a tropical environment. It was hundreds of feet below where Jerusalem was. So it was almost always a tropical environment. Things grew like crazy there. And the Romans, they built their third homes there. It was a getaway for the Romans and the rich people from Israel. So this was like where they'd have their timeshares, like Myrtle Beach or Las Vegas or wherever you want your timeshare, Arizona, Alaska. No, not Alaska. Okay. Yeah, the mosquitoes have their timeshares in Alaska, the no-see-ums. And so these two men weren't begging like the first two. There's no begging mentioned here. And that tells you that they probably didn't need money. They just needed healing. And they also needed companionship, conversation. So now these two blind men were sitting there. Might have been gated communities there. They had the little remotes to open the gates and let in the black shiny cars. And these two friends were just surfing the internet of passerbys. What's new, good man? As somebody walks by. See, Jericho, these men were well-off blind men in Jericho, but they still wanted to see. Verse 31, and the multitude rebuked them. So now all these people who had come through, now everybody's screaming at these two guys. Imagine seeing the guy begging outside of Walmart, and everybody who went in just screamed at him, shut up, or the guy ringing the bell. Shut up, stop ringing that dang bell. And then imagine a whole group coming in and everybody screaming at him at the same time. And now a whole city screaming at the guy ringing the bell. It's crazy. But it happened. And the multitude rebuked them because they should hold their peace. And they cried the more, saying, have mercy on us, O Lord, thou son of David. Please, if you would be so kind. And so these two mimicked the first two in what they said. And so somebody was spreading this message of healing. And I was thinking how that's something that we need to do. Tell people what's available as far as healing, as far as finances, as far as anything like that. So the entire multitude, maybe hundreds or thousands, scolded them and told them to shut up. 32. And Jesus stood still. Again, their attitude stopped him in his tracks. What will stop what you need in its tracks long enough for you to get it? And Jesus stood still and called them and said, what will ye that I shall do unto you? And this time Jesus gets himself within earshot of them. He doesn't send the boys in. He goes in and asks what they wanted from him. And if you look up some of these words, like this word do unto thee, it's a Greek word that means make happen. What do you want me to make happen for you? And they said unto him, Lord, that our eyes may be opened. Now see, Jesus was fully engaged. And this was number 3 and 4 healings of that day. And I think, what a day. What a day. I mean, God did something special. It wasn't just for these blind guys. It's for that whole crowd going there. Imagine just seeing this. You're walking in knowing you're walking into a meat grinder. But you saw such beauty 13 miles back. And Jesus had compassion on them and touched their eyes. And immediately their eyes received sight, and they followed him. What happened this time differently? He touched them. And the other two times, he just reminded them, hey, go see. You believed. He didn't say that this time. He touched their eyes. And I thought how Jesus kept it fresh. He kept it real. He wasn't trapped in redundant religious functions. So I think keep it fresh and see what God has been trying to show you. I guarantee whatever you need, he's already been trying to direct you to it. We just have allowed the busyness of life and the world to blind us from what's really available for us. Like those things I mentioned earlier. It's prosperity and health has already been given. It's promised. So how do we finally see that? Keep it fresh and see what God's has been wanting to show you. Now the healing of a soul. This is a different kind of healing. This is going to be a spiritual and an emotional type healing. Luke chapter 19. verse 1. And Jesus entered and passed through Jericho. So does this talk about the blind guys at all? No. Now, chapter 18 of Luke does. At the east side of the gate, he talks about it. Now, he doesn't mention the second, or he doesn't talk about the other 3 blind guys getting healed. And so he entered and passed through Jericho. Verse 2, and behold, there was a man named Zacchaeus, which was the chief among the publicans, and he was rich. He was rich. And so who here is fired up about paying taxes? Looks like one person is. And, a publican is a tax collector. And a chief publican was in charge of many tax collectors. He's like the IRS, the head of the IRS of that area. And, they're always loved people, if you ever got a call from one. And tax collecting from the Romans was less like the IRS and more like Guido collecting protection money from the business owners in Brooklyn. What are you going to do? And say, Guido says, hey, I collect 1,000, give Zach the hat 800, I keep 200, Zach gives the Romans 500, and hey, Zach gets a cut from all his guys. This is just business. It's just business. It's the way we do things. See, Zacchaeus is filthy rich and severely hated. He steals from his own people and gives to himself. It's Robin Hood robbing his hood. Now, this guy worked for the Roman government. And so now, you got to understand, how they would do it is Rome wanted $500 from this family. Well, then his underling would tell him he has to pay $700. And so that guy would keep $200, and then he would give Zach the money, give whatever's left. So everybody took a cut along the way, and then the people get screwed, just like never mind. And he sought to see Jesus, who he was, and could not for the press. There was too many people because he was of little stature. Jesus in the middle of this crowd, and he was a short guy. He couldn't see who Jesus was. And he ran before. Think of like Fred Flintstone feet, He's running ahead. He hopped in his little shiny black Cadillac Escalade. Guido, his consigliere, is driving him, to this special tree, this tree tall enough. And he parks his thing. The little guy gets out with his little fedora on and his black sunshades and his shiny, shark skin suit. He has on little black shiny crocodile slippers, and some socks that go up over the calf. Pinstripe sort of suit on here. Got a little piece under there. And so Guido, boosts him up into the tree so he can scope things out for himself. He wants to see who this Jesus guy is. Who's this interloper? Who's this guy who's moving out of my territory? Zacchaeus owned Jericho. And he could call in the Roman army if he needed to collect the money he needed. This guy had power, and he misused it. Now, isn't that what the early lesson that Jesus Christ talked about here? The early lesson on leadership, about when they wanted to have more power in the hereafter. And Jesus Christ said, hey, the greater, you want to be a great leader, be the best servant. And so here we are. And verse 5, when Jesus came to the place, he looked up and saw him and said unto him, Zacchaeus, make haste and come down, for today I must abide at thy house. And he made haste and came down and received him joyfully. So he shimmied down from that tree, climbed down, Guido, and ran as fast as he can with his little legs up to Jesus. And he goes, let's go. And Jesus wanted to take the party over to Zacchaeus' house. And it's a multitude now. It's a multitude. But I was thinking how random this was. Why on earth would Jesus talk to this guy? This was a severely hated man. And then want to go eat with him. And I was thinking how with Jesus there was no prejudice. And the emotional momentum of this entire happy mob is about to deflate. Verse 7, and when they saw it, these townspeople, they all murmured, saying, that he is gone to be a guest with this man that's a sinner. See, this blew the minds of these people. They hated Zacchaeus. Most of the crowd turned on Jesus in unison at that time. This big crowd, they just turned and went back into town. And he was left with the original people he started with. That's weird. That's random. After all that, don't allow legalism to blind your heart from seeing what is due you. Don't allow legalism to blind your heart. Verse 8, and Zacchaeus stood and said unto the Lord, behold, Lord, the half of my goods I give the poor, and if I have taken anything from any man by false accusations, I restore him fourfold. And the term I give to the poor is in the present tense, and it means I will from now on start doing this. He wasn't one to do this before, like you hear in your little Sunday school classes. He wasn't a big giver. You're not a big giver if you're a tax collector. It's all about you. And for him to be hated like that means he wasn't much of a big giver. So from now on, starting now, I'm going to give half of my money to those in need. Imagine 50% of your paycheck you give away. And he says, and anybody I've ripped off, I'm going to pay him back with 400% interest. 400% interest. You think this Zacchaeus guy had a heart change? It's like a heart transplant. This is the lesson that Jesus Christ has been trying to teach all day. All day. And Jesus said unto him, this day is salvation come to this house, for as much as he also is a son of Abraham. For the Son of Man is come to seek and to save that which is lost. And this word salvation here, it's not sozo, but it means to bring safety or to rescue, even if it's not popular. And it has a future tense to it. It's to rescue now and in the future. And he said, Zach, you've been healed today, not your eyes, but your heart. And that's the whole point of what I'm teaching today. We need to have our hearts healed, so our believing can be healed, so we can be healed. And he calls him the son of Abraham. And he says also, which is including himself, you also are a son of Abraham. So he was likening Zacchaeus unto him. And Abraham is the big name in Judaism. Abraham. Nobody bigger than Abraham. He's the father of the whole thing. You see, to save the lost, now, this is one of the last points I want to make, is to save the lost. That word lost doesn't mean you've wandered off. The word lost is the word destroyed. And Jesus said he was here to help people who've destroyed their lives, destroyed their reputation, and destroyed their health. If you've done something to destroy any of the above, I guarantee that the Word and the Christ is designed so that we can have that reconciled. He's come to save the lost. To save, and that is the word sozo, to make whole those who have destroyed their reputations, their own health, you see. And so as you bring who you are to the table, you're going to see how you fit in. And this lesson keeps going this day. We don't have time to continue this record, but they're heading toward Jerusalem. He talks about the man with the 10 talents of silver, or not 10 talents. He talks about, he gave, this one man gave 10 coins to each of his people. And he said, invest it. And some hid it, some didn't do a little bit, some really utilized it. And the whole point is, whatever you've been given, then utilize that. Make it grow to the biggest extent. Whatever it is, this is a key to living, folks. It's a key to living. It started off with an attitude of, with James and John and their mom asking for a special place. And Jesus told them that the key to living is giving. Then they crossed the Jordan at a significant spot that everyone would have known and understood. And so I was thinking, remember the real reason that you're here. And then 4 blind guys were healed as they walked through Jericho. And the town went nuts. So when it comes to healing, keep it fresh and know exactly what you want. Those blind guys did. And Zacchaeus recognized that what Jesus Christ was teaching and doing, he realized that he could give in his own way. He had something to give. And he too could finally see a purpose for his own life. He was healed emotionally and spiritually that day. Give of who you are and what you have. And finally, the apostles are once again reminded they must use the gift that God gave them, or it's going to lie useless. They finally got it. They too were in the area, they too were healed in that area of heart and understanding. And the lesson goes back to service. The one who gives the most of who they are will be the one who receives the most. If you want to receive the most, give the most. So today we saw the healing attitude behind both the giver and the receiver. We saw that a focused heart and an unselfish giving of our personal gifts are the backbone of a healing mindset. Like the word says, you are healed. God bless.